From Kermit the Frog
to Andrei Tarkovsky,
this week we will be discussing Jim Henson, Idea Man, Snack Shack, and Mirror.
This is The Film Angle. Welcome to The Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Kris.
And I'm Alex.
Let's get into it.
Hello, Kris. How are you?
Alex, I'm very, very well. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. The sun is shining. The Euros are about to start. And do you know what? I think it's coming home.
Well, I'm going to have to dampen your spirits there. Weather's terrible here. And I didn't even know the Euros were on today. I am the worst sports fan in the world. Like I'm lost when it comes to football. I'm so sorry.
I mean, to be fair, you're not English, are you? So I guess it isn't really coming home for you anyway, is it?
No, it's not coming home for me. And you guys always seem to say it's coming home, but it never does.
Yeah, so you always got to live in hope, man. You always got to live in hope. It's the only time I really get into the football is during an international competition.
Yeah, that's the same with any sport for me. It's like, I'll get caught up with this for 10 minutes. It's like everybody, when Wimbledon comes around every couple of years, everybody's just suddenly buys a tennis racket. It's kind of like that.
I never got into tennis. I remember when we were discussing this in our kind of challenges episode, never really got into tennis. I've played tennis.
It's hard.
Every now and then, and it's quite good fun. I quite enjoy it, but yeah, it is difficult. But yeah, I never really got into watching it or anything like that. If anything, the most I've ever enjoyed tennis is watching challenges.
So I used to play Top Spin 4 as a tennis video game quite a lot, and I used to love that. But I played badminton in school for a team, and then whenever I transitioned to ever play tennis, it's a completely different sport. So I was awful at it. But it's one of those ones I'd like to be good at. You make you really fit. Really, really fit.
I have a family of badminton players. So
okay.
Badminton's big in my dad's side of the family.
I'm going to regret saying that because they'd be like, oh, Kris, you played badminton once. We're going to play badminton today. And I just embarrassed myself. So regret mentioning that.
No, you're all good. Though my granddad was Southwest Sports Personality of the Year.
Sports personality?
Wow. Like that. Yeah. For badminton. Anyway, this isn't the sport angle, even though it is indeed coming home.
That might not age well.
It might not age well at all. But this is the film angle. Though, to be fair, apart from the films that we are going to be discussing today, I've not really seen much else. Though I have been getting into the TV again. I've been watching the Acolyte and The Boys has just come out, so I'm back in TV. But Kris, I know you saw a film that I didn't see this week. So did you want to discuss that?
Yeah, I had a free Saturday, so I went to go see Viggo Mortensen's project, The Dead Don't Hurt, which is his sort of love letter to the Western genre. So this was really interesting to me because not only was it getting quite decent praise off the back of some film festivals, but Viggo Mortensen directs it, he writes it, he does the score, and he also stars in the film. What could go wrong? And so I was kind of worried about that this would be a complete vanity project, but I'm like, when do I get to see a Western in the cinemas? And the answer is really rare. I mean, maybe once a year, especially something that's traditionally planted into the ground as this is. And it turns out this isn't a vanity project, actually. This is a very slow, very romantic Western. He stars along Vicky Krieps. They are both immigrants who meet each other at San Francisco, and they move into Oregon and they start a ranch up, and they have a family, and obviously, like any other Western, this idyllic lifestyle has got exterior forces preventing it from blossoming fully. But, what I was really impressed with, Alex, was that Mortensen he's the main character, right? but he's off screen for half of the film. And instead, he lends this film to Vicky Krieps and her outstanding acting ability. And she becomes our main protagonist and carries us through her, tumultuous journey of trying to settle down in this land where, there's full of outlaws who want to take advantage of her and her good nature. And also the strength of this woman. Her husband, played by Mortensen, has guilt about the Civil War. He is a war veteran himself, and although he loves her very much, he says, I need to see what this war is about. I need to be doing something and nothing. And it leaves her in the lurch, fending for herself. And it becomes this movie about female survival in the West. So it was really cool. I don't think it's going to be everyone's cup of tea, Alex, because Westerns aren't everybody's cup of tea anyway, but this is a very slow, takes its time sort of Western that plays around with time in an interesting narrative way. We get a lot of backflashes and forwards that are kind of new to the Western genre. Usually everything kind of follows on tracks pretty seamlessly, but this has got something interesting about it. I would say it does suffer from a lack of financial budget behind it. You can see the strings on some of those sets sometimes. We're supposed to be in San Francisco, but I can tell you're in a back lot. Some of the ensemble scenes where there's like a big town in a courtroom, some of those performances are a little bit creaky and, it feels a little bit amateur at times. But when the film is focused on Krieps and Mortensen, it fully blossoms. And, it's a pretty decent Western. And, if you get a chance to see it and you like the genre, I'd recommend it. Nice.
Well, you've definitely made me interested, although, it didn't blow you away.
Didn't blow me away, no.
I'm very interested to see it. And, I've always loved Viggo Mortensen since The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah. Aragorn's just so cool, right?
As a kid, I wanted my hair to look like Aragorn. And as an adult, I think I've finally done it.
You finally achieved it.
Finally achieved it.
Everybody in the playground in my school either wanted to be Aragorn or Legolas, but nobody ever gave Gimli his credit. I mean, that guy's he's probably the cool. He's the one that makes me laugh the most. Maybe that's why.
Yes, yeah, there's definitely that.
So there you go, Alex. That's The Dead Don't Hurt. It's playing in cinemas still at the moment, yes, but it's probably by the time this episode goes out, you might have to wait for it on VOD.
Yeah, that might be the case. I can only see. It's got a few performances this week, but by the time the episode comes out, it might be on its last couple of days in Bristol, anyway. Mm-hmm. But yeah, shall we get into the films that we've both seen this week, Kris?
Let's do it. So the first film we're talking about today, film, documentary, whatever you want to call it, is Idea Man. Jim Henson, Idea Man, which is a documentary from director Ron Howard, of all people, chronicling the life of the Muppets creator Jim Henson. There's not really much more to say about the plot than that, really. We kind of follow a full life of Jim Henson, really.
Yes, yeah. It's a film that didn't get... I don't think it got a cinematic release, or at least it passed me by if it did, but I did notice it pop up on Disney+. So it might be one of those Disney+ original films. But the thing that kind of piqued my interest the most was it being directed by Ron Howard. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Muppets. I love Jim Henson. I was all for learning about Jim Henson's life, getting a few more tidbits than I already knew. But I did think it was interesting to have quite a prestige director come on board to create what unfortunately is kind of a run-of-the-mill documentary film.
Yeah, I have to agree with you for the most part, Alex. I do feel that this is very much Ron Howard on autopilot, as the working filmmaker, director. And it's a Talking Heads film that features a lot of really good archive footage, a lot of zooming in and old black and white photographs as somebody, shares their anecdote on their rocky relationship between Henson and his wife, and him trying to control both of these worlds, his empire that he kind of didn't realize he was going to create off the back of his genius, and also trying to maintain his relationships with his children and his wife. But yes, this has a very simplistic glossing over of his life. So I feel if you're, I didn't know a lot about Jim Henson, even though Sesame Street, the Muppets, all those properties, Dark Crystal were a really big part of my childhood and my even going into my teenage and adult years. But there wasn't anything I feel that people who know a bit about Jim Henson, they're going to be surprised about. There's nothing very, there's not a real in-depth dive in this film. It's more just an all-encompassing celebration of this man's life.
Yeah, I think if anything, the only thing that surprised me with the film was just how much Jim Henson pursued a creative kind of output in terms of his short films and animation and everything. I always kind of saw him a little bit as the puppet man, so it was interesting to kind of get a dive back into some of his other works and see that like puppetry was just another way of expressing his kind of creativity. Sure. It wasn't like a thing that was like he was destined for or anything like that. And I think had Jim Henson been around even longer, I don't know if puppetry might not be the thing he'd be doing now. He felt like the kind of person, like your George Lucases and stuff, your Spielbergs that are always trying to push further and further. How far can I take a new technology and can I push it to its limits to create something fun and interesting? So, I quite liked finding out those things about him, and the film does have quite an erratic style, and it's a little bit unsettling at first. Like it's firing away at you in almost like TikTok speed. You know what I mean? Like here's a snippet, here's a snippet, here's a snippet, made for those with a short attention span. But then you later kind of realize that a lot of the stuff that's happening on screen is very much inspired by the short films that Jim Henson created. So there was an element of me being like, oh, okay, I get it. I see what you're going for here. But yeah, just I don't know. It just didn't keep me there enough. I wanted to find out new stuff, but I almost felt very kind of constrained by the limitations of this is going on Disney Plus. We have a family audience. We're not going to delve deep into, I don't want to say like the dark side of Jim Henson, but the side which isn't all amazing and happy and lovely. And they touch on different areas, but it almost feels like it's a little too clean. Like Disney didn't want to say that, when he split up with his wife, and he, in the documentary, they say he liked to date, but he didn't like long-term relationships. And it was like, guy likes to sleep around now. Okay. Like he wants to have a bit of fun, but Disney isn't going to go ahead and say that. So
there's something deeper to explore there that is glossed over for sure. Yeah.
We've seen documentaries take a specific iconic person and delve deep into their lives. We've seen it with like Amy and Senna from Asifkapedia. There are better documentaries out there that chronicle people like this, and I just think this one just felt a little too clean and polished and just wasn't hitting the elements I needed to hit to go, I've really learned something new about Jim Henson here.
I guess you got to look at it from the objective of Disney as a platform. It's a Disney commission film, and they're obviously the objective of this is to bolster their property, even more, and just to kind of just to reinforce it. We've got like the Howard documentary that came out a couple of years ago. We get the ones about the Sherman brothers. There seems to be every year we get a documentary behind the origin of the genius of a lot of things that we love about Disney, and Disney likes to remind us, why we like the stuff that they produce. So there's a little bit of cynicism behind that for sure, but I would like to say, it's not all doom and gloom. I do think it's a real easy watch. And whenever, the movie's at its best, whenever it is just showing the genius of his, constructions and his directing and the characters that he's created. Halfway through the film, I was getting a little bit bored with this glossing over of his relationship with his wife. It was very circular with that sort of relationship.
Yeah,
And how
it
it was,
was like it was happening, and then we'd circle back round to it, and then like, so it's a little bit on the rocks, but
yes,
who's
yeah.
making Sesame
Yeah,
Street?
you see a black and white photograph being zoomed on for 30
Yeah,
seconds, and I'm like, okay, this is getting into Netflix territory here. But whenever we get the creation of the Muppet Show and obviously learning about the financial background of that and how it had to be made in England as opposed to the United States, and then we just get to watch and enjoy some highlights from the early iterations of the show at the beginning, the introduction of Miss Piggy and how that relationship with Kermit formed. And watching some of these skits, I just started laughing. I
Mm.
just naturally laughing at the everlasting power of the genius and the lighthearted, observative humor of the Muppets TV show. And so upbringing brought back a lot of memories for me.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to be bowled over by that. So I would say the midsection for me was like a real highlight for me watching this film. But it's a standard documentary. I wouldn't be looking for the Mr. Rogers, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood sort of level of quality of trying of playing with the structure of format of what a documentary is. It's not to that level, but it's not a bad way to spend 2 hours.
Yeah, and they tug at the heartstrings at the end.
For sure.
You might have seen it. I feel like the clip does go viral every now and then on social media. But Big Bird singing at Jim Henson's funeral is a tearjerker.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No matter how by the numbers the documentary is, that one's going to make you tear up.
Yeah, it is a beautiful moment. I wish people turned up to my funeral like that.
Yeah,
I very much doubt it.
One of my first ever like soft toys was a Big Bird toy, gifted by my uncle and auntie.
Oh, that's really sweet.
So I love Big Bird, and I remember we went to one of the theme parks in Florida, and there was a Sesame Street area, and I'd just been bitten by a bug, and I was starting to freak out a little bit, but then I saw Big Bird, and I still had time to go have a picture with Big Bird before then being taken to the medical center just to double check what I'd been bitten by.
That's the most Alex story I've ever heard.
There's a good picture somewhere. But yeah, no, a lot of love for all those characters. But it did make me think, like, I feel like Disney have been struggling with the Muppets as a franchise for a while now. We had the excellent Muppets movie, which was back in, like, I'm going to say 2011?
Yeah, I think it was 2011 with Amy Adams, and
that was excellent. I
love that film.
I think we spoke about it on very early days of the podcast on our top 5 comfort films. That was one of my comfort films because I absolutely love that. But then it feels like they haven't really known what to do with the franchise since. I don't think Muppets Most Wanted did quite so well.
Yeah, I quite like that movie still, but it's not. It didn't reach the heights. No,
they've had a couple of failed TV shows, and I think the Animal Show just didn't do quite so well. Even though I watched like one episode, I thought it was okay, but I still wasn't drawn in enough to keep watching, and I do feel slightly bad about that. But my time is limited these days. Okay, I might go back and watch the Animal Show, but. Yeah,
they dump these things on there, and you're like expected just to know. I didn't know about the last Muppets iteration of their their skit show until you told me about it, and I was like, "Oh, the Swedish Chef bits are so funny. They're so funny."
Yes, there was that, wasn't there? Yeah,
I love Pepe. I love those characters. But yeah, it is just maybe it's just not cool anymore, and that's really sad because the Muppets are really cool, and I don't think it's just nostalgia talking. Like. Just when you watch it, I see bits I've never seen before, and they never fail to make me laugh. These characters are just brilliant, and there's such an innocence to that material, which is sadly kind of lacking in a lot of modern media. And it'd be really nice just to kind of bring it back again to a level. But
I think the best thing to do would be to take a literary adaptation like Treasure Island and Christmas Carol, do something like that again, where everybody's a Muppet apart from one person who's a human, and make it a big celebrity. Do something like that. I want to see more of that. Give that another go, because I'll be nostalgic for it. As at the same time as just loving the idea of another Muppets adaptation. But this documentary did get me thinking. I think if Jim Henson was around now, I think he'd be done with the Muppets. I don't think he would be drawing them out any further than what is.
Yeah. Yeah, he would
He'd
have
be on
moved
to
on
the
to
next
something else. I
thing.
mean, the
Yeah.
latter part of his career, as the documentary alludes to, it completely sells that idea. You know, he was constrained. He was in the market of the Muppets and Sesame Street because that was his way in the door. He came in through the commercial sector and then moved on to the kid sector, and then the thing became bigger than he intended it to be. But obviously, you know, it's the money train. You're not going to stop it from happening. But so the latter part of his career, he starts to focus on those darker ideas like the Dark Crystal, you know, Labyrinth. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
we see a lot of experimentation at
Yeah.
the latter part of his career. So yeah, I think he probably would be in CGI territory now.
100%.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I mean, you know, there's room to think, but yeah, it's not the deepest documentary, guys, but I think it's worth catching up on. If you love the Muppets at all, it's worth watching.
The next film we'll be reviewing is Snack Shack. It's a film which follows AJ and Moose as they pursue various money-making schemes during one summer in the 90s in order to set themselves up. In doing so, they end up taking over the local pool's Snack Shack and start fighting over the affections of the new girl in town, who also happens to be the lifeguard at the pool, Brooke. This was a film that I think had been on like my peripheral vision. I might have seen it somewhere on Letterboxd, and Letterboxd has got this really great feature where if you add something to your watch list, they then let you know when it's available to stream. And I think it was just before we recorded last week's episode, I got a notification that it's ready to stream over here. No cinematic release, no shouting about it. I don't, as far as I'm aware, I hadn't even seen a trailer for it. I think I'd just seen some good reviews and went for it. So I was quite surprised to see that it was like a full-blown Paramount, relatively high production value film going on here. But yeah, was happy to see something that kind of harkens back to that kind of Richard Linklater Dazed and Confused,
Sure.
Kevin Smith Clerks and Mallrats kind of vibe going on. A little bit of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I love those kind of films. I was interested to see what I was going to get with this one. But yeah, Kris, what did you think of Snack Shack?
Yeah, this is a genre, the coming of age genre in general is something I usually fall head over heels for. I really like just kind of the nostalgia nature of these things. Like you alluded to, I love Linklater's films where he explores these sort of ideas of like exploring a past, even though this is set in 1991, you know, being able to live in a space that feels familiar, feels like it replicates your childhood. It's quite fun to explore in films and just to kind of see similarities in your youthful self and other people. I was really excited to watch this film, Alex. It looked really fun. You know, a lot of the cast list, I've seen a couple of people in here before, but like a lot of it's new to me. So I was really excited. And I, like you said, it had good responses on Letterboxd. I struggled with this one, if I'm being honest. It has a lot of high energy. Probably too much. I think this film at the beginning starts off with extreme confidence. It has this real fast-paced nature. You know, we got AJ and Moose. They're already in the middle of skipping a school trip. They've been betting. On horses or so. Yeah. So they're back and forth. You know, we're getting displayed. Moose being played by Gabriel LaBelle. He played Sammy Fableman in the Fablemans last year. He's great.
Great to see him back, because I thought like this is a very different character to playing the young version of Spielberg. Essentially, he's almost like a very cool.
He's a Corey Feldman character, really, isn't he?
Yeah, like he was cool and, you know, handsome and all kinds of things in this. And I was like, this is not what I saw from when he played young Spielberg, and not in a bad way. Just he completely gets into this character in a very different way, and I thought it was fantastic.
So this first 10 minutes has this real high energy, like I said. You know, the soundtrack's going off. You know, we get the drum beats, boom, 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 ba-doom, boom. But, you know, everything's going really fast paced. Like we're almost in some sort of Adam McKay, you know, modern, you know, that sort of energy to this film. But I never was on board with that confidence. It just felt like I feel like, okay, I give a film like us 10 minutes to kind of be like, right, let it settle into itself and, you know, the funnies will come. And I just never found any of the jokes funny. I don't know why. Something in the writing, the performances, man, I think are really good. Like you said, LaBelle, brings a real energy to this performance. Like, he is doing the asshole best friend thing really, really well. But I don't think anything that comes out of his mouth is funny. Like, it's a thing that kind of happens with a lot of this film, to be honest. We then get introduced to the parents, which is like very reminiscent of like Stanley Tucci and the parents in Easy A. You know, the wacky parents that are
bit of a caricature of different things. Yeah.
Disciplinarians, but at the same time, you know, there's a little bit of heart in there, but it's all for laughs. And I just like, it was tonally just kind of here, there, and everywhere. You know, this movie looks, I'm like confused because the movie looks great. This movie looks like, has that sun bleached energy that you get from a 2008 sort of hot rod, you know, Step Brothers aesthetic, you know, that really like throwback time where movies used to look yellow, but in a really nice way. But I just felt like the screenplay was lacking. The direction, I think this movie looks great. Sometimes the soundtrack is really nice too, really, really nice soundtrack. But yeah, I struggled to find anything really worth laughing. And whenever I did laugh, I felt like I was kind of forcing myself to have a good time with it. I don't know if you kind of had a similar experience.
The thing is, I can't fully disagree with anything you're saying. Now, I do love these types of films, so I was very much like, as soon as I settled into it, because you're right, it is quite high energy at the start in a way that's a little bit like, oh, this is jarring. I'm just cocky. Settling down to watch this, you know. There is a cockiness to it. But I kind of settled into the vibe of another kind of fun American summer movie. Two best friends fighting over a girl, you know, getting up to mischief, all that kind of stuff. And I was in on that level. But you're right. It was one of the things that I kind of fought with throughout the whole film. I was thinking, I'm not laughing much at what's going on. Like, nothing's overly funny. A few chuckles here and there, but it did feel like the film, and it's all subjective, obviously, but if the film felt like it thought it was funnier than it was. But I also felt like it was a bit unfocused at times. The initial kind of contraption that the guys have to make money is by selling homemade beer, and I thought that was such a fun idea. And I was listening to an interview with the director, and it's very much inspired by certain elements of his own life. Not loads, but definitely inspired by certain elements of things he was doing at that age. And I thought, that's going to be really interesting because, you know, at some point they're going to get a snack shack and they'll be able to sell their beer through there. But it doesn't turn into that. It's almost as like the beer thing gets fondled and they start another scheme. And obviously there's a few kind of, this weaves into this and this weaves into that. But I just felt like the film needed to focus on what it wanted to be. And I kind of wanted to see the homemade beer element throughout. I thought that was going to be the main thing. It goes through ups and downs of all this kind of stuff. And I just didn't know sometimes what it was trying to achieve. What are you going for? And the other element to me was, I felt the film to be quite predictable. And
for sure. It is very contrived. It's, you've seen this so many times. And in a way, like, you can do that and be fun and nod to the genre, but this just like, there's a character called Brooke, like we mentioned in the synopsis, that the two best friends end up kind of splitting and fighting over. She's a new girl in town, and she's got a new job as a lifeguard at the pool that they got the snack shack at. And obviously our main character, AJ, is just absolutely smitten with her. But, you know, she is a caricature, to say the least. She's almost a parody of the alternative cool girl next door. She, you know, every time she sees AJ, she calls him shit pig, and like, but she does that voice like, "Hey, shit pig," you know. It's very in mocking, but like, on the cool girl, and it's just like, every scene she's introduced, you could write, you know, an AI generator could have written what she said. And
she's arty, you know, she's got a camera, she's cool, she's witty, she's
she takes pictures of him every time she sees him. I'm watching this going like, girl, get out of his face. I find nothing wrong with the performance again, but I just feel like for a director, I really like the way you mentioned that Adam Reimer, he wrote and directed this himself. It's this sort of a fantastical, very, very loose sort of memoir in a way. You know, it's a nod to his childhood. But for somebody who is making a potent piece of material about that, it doesn't feel honest and true to someone's experience. It just feels like another one of these movies that came out in 2007, but maybe would have fell by the wayside a little bit.
Well,
I don't know.
it kind of felt to me like you have seen Dazed and Confused, right?
Sure, yeah, of course.
So like Dazed and Confused doesn't really have a structure. It's very much, you know, we're following different characters throughout this. Like, you know, I think it's the first day of summer. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it, but it's all about vibes. And this film, I feel like struggled between we want to show off a vibe and we just want to have these wacky characters like you might see in a high school comedy. You know, different groups and character stereotypes and stuff like that come around, and there's little skits, but also, you know, also while straddling this idea of there's a structured story that goes throughout, and it's about this kind of tumultuous, a mixed relationship between our two best friends and how they, you know, fall apart and come back together. Now, we always do talk about spoilers, but I thought it might be worth mentioning that this is a pretty major spoiler. So if Snack Shack is something you want to go off and see, no spoilers, then I'm about to reveal something big now. So come back later, I guess. But the character of Nick Robinson shows up. He is a slightly older than our main characters, but gets on really well with AJ and is almost a mentor slash buddy and slash
older brother,
protector vibe going on between them. And as soon as he comes on board, there was just part of me that just thought, this guy's going to die. It almost felt like it was set up from the very start that he was a character set up to die.
So angelically nice, like completely knight in shining armor, whenever he needs to be. Yeah.
And they're planning a trip away, and I just felt like the writing's on the wall here. But then there was part of me that felt like I think I would be a little bit disappointed if he does now die. Like, give me something interesting. But no, inevitably. Even though I guess like the writing shouldn't be on the wall, but I don't know. Did you feel like did you know he was going to die? Because he dies. All right, he dies.
Right. No. Yeah. Even though it's inevitable, it still felt weird and jarring in the moment. Yeah. I was like, oh my goodness, the movie needs to pick a lane. Like at the beginning, our initial things about getting the beer sold, and then it's about getting a snack shack. Then it's about, you know, going to Alaska. So we focus on that for half an hour. And then we're like, oh shit, the snack shack needs manned. So we're going to go back to the snack shack. And then we forget about it. You know, you forget what the movie is going for. And this is exactly the same for the characters. I feel, although Connor Sherry is AJ, I actually think he's really, really good in this film. He has a Chaplin quality to his physical acting. There's a lot of fun.
Very gawky teenager. He plays it completely well. He looks the part in a nice way. He looks the part. Honestly, I was like, oh, this kid's going places, no doubt.
Falling downstairs, like in a way that looks super painful. Falling over his bike, running like a maniac down the streets. Like his physical acting is really there. But again, I never really felt. Although I kind of knew what was motivating AJ, I never really felt like I knew that character. I never really felt like I knew any of these people. And I know this is just a fun comedy film. But when we're spending so much time, and the movie does want to pull in your heartstrings when it needs to, and it does want you to be connected to these people, I just didn't feel like these were real people that I really knew or could connect with. I think that was really what was keeping me behind for both laughing and also being attached to the thing. Yeah.
So when the death does happen, I like you say, like it's sad, it pulls on your heartstrings, it does what it sets out to do.
He's a nice guy. I mean,
he's a nice guy. Yeah, it's difficult not to feel affected by it. But I did leave myself thinking, like, what are we achieving by killing this character? Because I guess the idea is that Moose and AJ are quite estranged at this point, and his death brings them together. But I always thought there was no doubt that those guys would come together, death of a friend or not. You know, 100%. They're going to put their troubles aside. They're not going to get, caught up in fighting over a girl that's leaving anyway at some point in the near future. So, like, I don't know what the death achieved in the major scheme of the film. And
It was a way to bring.
I want to understand more as to why that decision was made. Like, is it just literally just to feel something? I don't know. Maybe I missed something there.
I guess it was just a way to bring those two characters back together at the end of it. You know, like, let's snap out of it, man. You know, at the end of the day, we're friends. Life is cheap, sort of thing. I don't know. It just felt, again, the whole thing is just really contrived, and I think, I think it's well directed. Like I said, I think it has everything going for it. It just needed a different screenplay. I think everything else is working. This looks really nice, and I think, there's an alternative world where this would have really hit really well for both of us. We both are really big fans of the genre. I think people still are really loving it. People are vibing with it. So, maybe it's just the humor just hits for other people differently than we did, or caught us at a wrong time. But, the main culprit for me was just finding it was trying to be funny all the time, and it never was. And that kind of is a disappointing feeling when you're watching the film. It's that similar thing to, we keep bringing up the Fall Guy, but I felt the same way when I watched that, where it started off, okay, I can tell that these are jokes being thrown at me, but I'm not laughing. Oh, we're 15 minutes in and we're still doing this. Damn, I'm another an hour and 45 minutes left of this thing. And that's a horrible feeling to watch on screen. But yeah, it seems to be working for some people, so I wouldn't completely dismiss the whole film. It does have its merits. It's got good performances. The setting is really nice. It's got a really killer soundtrack. It's worth seeing, and I love to hear people disagree with me. I love to hear from people what made it funny for them.
Exactly, and it's one of those things. Comedy is very subjective, so it is very difficult. One person's sense of humor is very different to somebody else's, so it is interesting in that way. And obviously, like you said, it is, for the most part, it's gathering positive reactions. I still like the film. I don't dislike it at all. I just think that it doesn't achieve exactly what it sets out to go for. It doesn't reach, the heights of films in its own kind of genre and class that it's definitely, wearing as an inspiration on its sleeve. But it's so close. I feel like it's so close. I feel like if it had just maybe trimmed some of the fat, refocused itself a little bit, it could have been like, oh wow, we can still make one of these. And I think we can. And it is close, but yeah, just not quite there. Not quite there.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're a little bit more positive than me, but it's hard to hate this. I don't hate this movie.
Yeah, I think it's just my love of the genre of these kind of films, and it was nice to see a new one in a way. I'm like I've said, big lover of kind of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and stuff like that. I love a high school comedy.
Same.
Super Bad, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love like Animal House is one of my favorites. I love those sort of ragtag group of idiots.
Yeah, teenagers coming of age, doing stupid things, all for the affections of a
girl. Yeah, generally. Usually. Okay. So, Alex, whenever we kind of rebranded the show a few weeks ago, we thought it'd be quite fun to kind of start adding in segments or quizzes. Has so far one you've done yourself last week, which was pretty successful. The first week when I introduced this segment, I kind of just did something random for you together. But I think now it's kind of fun if we relate it to the episode, at least try to. And I thought, Jim Henson, the Muppets. I thought we could do a Muppet themed quiz, and I'm actually quite pleased with myself of what I've named it this week. And we did talk about 2011's film, The Muppets.
Yes,
and there's a really good song in that film called "Man or a Muppet." So this segment is called "Man or a Muppet," Alex, where you have to tell me. I got 10 names, and they're all real names. Like they're all. There's nothing fake here. I haven't made anything up. You have to tell me if the person I've named or the the Muppet or person I've named is a man or a Muppet. And let's see how you get on. I've got 10 questions.
Oh,
You ready?
okay. There's so many Muppets, and they got crazy names.
And there's a lot of real people with crazy names too. I've realized
there's more men than Muppets in the world.
Whenever I'm saying like this is a real person that's not a Muppet, like doesn't mean that they're necessarily like a person, like a celebrity. They can also be a fictional character.
Sure.
So it's not strictly to that. Okay.
Oh,
so
God. I feel like I'm going to embarrass myself here. I remember a Muppet question coming up on a pub quiz once. Everybody looked to me knowing I like the Muppets, and it was a Muppet character name, and then I was just like, I'm really bad with names. I'm so bad with names. I like to look at the Muppets.
I like it.
Hey, look, it's a puppet. It's funny.
Alex, if you're really good at this, it would just make it boring. So yeah.
True. You like to embarrass me every week. Let's go.
Absolutely. Right. Number 1. This person is called Zelda Rose. Man or a Muppet?
I'm going to go with man.
It's a Muppet.
It's a Muppet. Okay.
I don't think I would get any of these.
Can you describe what the Muppet looks like?
She was on like a TV show in the Muppet world, and she looks like a librarian. She's got like these sort of 1960s glasses with like a little bit of curly top on
Oh,
her head.
okay. I'd recognize her.
Yeah. And number 2, Alex, Johnny Fiamma.
Okay.
Johnny Fiamma.
I'm going to go man. I don't remember a Johnny Fiamma. It doesn't sound quite like it rolls off the tongue enough to be a Muppet name.
Yeah, it's a bit fumbly, isn't it? It's actually a Muppet.
Oh, for God's sake.
Johnny Fiamma was he was a crooner. He was a riff on Dean Martin. So
gotcha.
So yeah,
they like to do that.
They like to do that. Yeah,
they like that.
Number 3, Pilot Inspector Lee.
It sounds like a Muppet, but I feel like we've already had 2 Muppets, so I want to say man, but also is it a trick question?
I did try not to follow any traditional patterns of yes, no. So
is it going to be one of those where it's like they're all Muppets? You Muppets?
No. I will tell you there are plenty of real people on this list.
Well, all right. My head's saying Muppet. I'm going Muppet.
It's a man. It's actor Jason Lee's son.
Pilot Inspector Lee.
Inspector Lee. Inspector is spelled INSPE. All good so far. KTOR. So Inspector with a K.
Interesting. All right. No judgment. No judgment
here.
On kids' names.
Different is good. Different is good.
Sure.
Number 4. If you get this right, Alex, this will be the first one you got right. Just letting you know that.
Thanks.
Just so you can
thank you.
Score. Marvin Suggs. Marvin Suggs. Man or a Muppet?
Man or Muppet? Man. I'm gonna go man.
Marvin Suggs is a Muppet.
Oh man, this is embarrassing.
I'm so glad.
This is embarrassing this week. All right, go on. Describe Marvin Suggs to me.
Well, no, I'm so happy just to begin with because, when you're writing this, you're like, to me, this is like, oh, this is so good. But like, he might just see completely through this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like I did pretty well. Yeah, Marvin Suggs is like, he is a musician. He's a bit like mental. He appears a couple times on the Muppet Show and plays something called a Muppaphone, an instrument made of living balls of fluff.
Living balls, that's all I heard.
Oh man, things never change. So okay, number 5, Alex. Mingus Redis.
Mingus Redis. I mean, does it sound like a Muppet? I'm not sure. I think I'm going to go man on this one.
Alex, it's your first one you got right. The man.
Yes.
Mingus Redis is Norman Reedus' son.
I was going to say the name Redis. I was thinking, the guy from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
All right. Mingus. Interesting. There must be something to that.
It sounds like a Mad Max name.
Yeah.
Vegas.
No judgment on people's kids' names.
I'm just saying, that's what it sounds like.
Interesting.
Number 6, Bobby Benson.
Bobby Benson. Now that sounds like a Muppet. I'm going for Muppet.
He sounds like a guy you want to hang out with, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You're right, Alex. Bobby Benson.
Oh, he's bringing it back. He's coming home.
Is a Muppet. He is the leader of the baby band on the Muppet Show. He wears sunglasses. He has a cigarette dangling off his lip. He just looks like, he'd be, in Little Italy, kind of keeping an eye on everybody,
Nice. Okay. I like it.
Okay. So that's 2 out of 6 so far. Yeah.
All right. Can I bring this back?
You can bring it back. Okay. Number 7, Louis Kazagir.
I am going to go man. I'll go man on that one.
Louis Kazagir is a Muppet.
Ugh, okay. I'm not bringing it back then.
Kazagir, he is a sportscaster on the Muppet Show.
Gotcha.
Alex, I don't feel bad. Like, this isn't like all this came off the top of my head. I had no idea who any of these people were.
It's not like you said Miss Piggy and I went, a man! Fuzzy Bear!
Yeah, you're not going to get any easy ones like that. Number 8, Alex, Coco Crisp.
Oh, okay. Muppet. I'm pretty confident with that one.
Coco Crisp is a man.
Oh, God's sake.
Coco Crisp was an American former baseball player. I say was. He's like a coach now, but yeah. Coco Crisp.
I wish I hadn't said I was confident with that one. I don't know why I was so confident. Never again.
Number 9, Fabio Lanzoni.
God's sake. Every time I say it sounds like a man, it ends up being a Muppet. So this one, it does sound like a man, but I'm going to say Muppet.
Fabio Lanzoni is a man.
Oh, God's sake. I'm leaving.
Oh, man. He is a famous model / actor. So he's been a lot. He's like always plays small characters and things. Okay. Number 10. Can you get 3 out of 10 if you get this one right?
Go on.
Rusty Trombone. I did well. Come on.
That was good. Oh man, everything's telling me to go so many different ways right now. Obviously, it sounds like a Muppet, but I feel like I'm gonna get burnt, and it's gonna be a man. So even though that didn't work for me last time, I'm going to do the opposite of what I feel, and I'm gonna say man.
Are you really sure?
No.
You've only got 2 out of 10.
Are you telling me to go Muppet?
No, just asking. Are you sure? They do
this
at the end of the
making me feel very good. All right, you're not making me feel good with my answer. Yeah, go for man.
Alex, Rusty Trombone is a man. He is a character from the TV show 30 Rock.
I liked 30 Rock. Maybe there was something in there. It's been a long time, but maybe there was something in there in my brain that was telling me.
3 out of 10, Alex. 3 out of 10.
Brilliant. Okay, it's not a good good track.
It is it is just a guessing game. I really did. I tried to make I spent like a good few hours researching these names, making sure that the real life people just sounded as Muppet like as possible. So I really didn't give you an easy right.
No,
there.
You did a really good job there, Chris. You did a really good job. So
that's okay.
I'm not the Muppets #1 fan, clearly.
Yeah, I think these Muppets characters that I did pick are probably like characters that appeared in 1 or 2 episodes in like 1979 or something. So, no one can blame me for that. There's no Miss Piggy or Fozzie Bear in here.
Nice. Well, I guess you better sing Man or Muppet to lead us out of the segment.
Am I a man or am I a Muppet?
Am I a Muppet? If I'm a Muppet, then I'm a very manly Muppet.
A very manly Muppet.
This is the section of the show where we catch up with our ongoing series, our blind spots on the Sight and Sound greatest films of all time list. We're continuing to make our way down the list of films we haven't seen before, and according to Letterboxd, we're on number 31 this week, which just so happens to be our third Andrei Tarkovsky film on the list. We've done Andrei Rublev, we've done Stalker, and now this week we're diving into Mirror, which is also his shortest film. So there is that. His shortest, but probably his most difficult. Mirror is a somewhat non-linear film, intertwining the dreams and memories of a dying man with pivotal moments in Soviet history and daily life. Kris, what did you think?
I think there's no way you could flesh out the summary more than that, because I think that is just what the film is. It's a man on his deathbed reflecting on the things he did well and things he did not, and mostly reflecting on his mother.
Yes.
So this is a film, Alex, that I paid extra studying to because I've seen it twice. I've seen it twice now.
Can I just say
last week?
Twice in the span of a week?
Yeah. Yeah, I watched it last night as well. And can
I just say, I would not be able to do that. And I don't. Wow, is that a reflection on the film? Maybe a little bit. This is a really difficult film, so I do commend you for going at it twice. So take the lead, Kris. Take the lead.
I'm going to try my best here. This is I think I'm going to be hyperbolic from the get-go here and say this is a milestone film for me in my watching sort of career, if you want to use a terrible term like that. In of the way that the way I approach watching films. So on my first viewing, I'll admit that I had been pre-programmed to treat this film like a treasure hunt. You know, there's so many puzzling things going on from the beginning of Mirror. So why are we watching a speech therapy session on TV? Why do we see the ghostly rush of a breeze go along the grass? Why are there scenes of levitation? There's so much to digest. It's such a dense film. And then it dawned on me, but too late into the first viewing, Alex, that this is a film not designed to be a puzzle that needs to be worked out. And so, and then I'll be rewarded for working out Tarkovsky's master plan. It's not that at all. Instead, it's a film about fragmentation, about how memories, however vague or hyper-specific, shape a person into who they are. Yeah. So like I said, in this film, we are in the mind of a dying man who is specifically like sifting through, trying to find a chronological order to these very vivid memories, both narratively and thematically. So just like a first-time viewer is trying to do, sift through these things, but can't really make sense of it. I feel like he was trying to mirror the internal struggle of this narrator that we're following through in his life, and also mirror that in ourselves. So I think that's why the movie's called Mirror. For me in that point of view, it's just like it trying to really test the viewer on what the viewing experience of how films play out are. Because I think if the film had something to say that was simple, I think he would have done it in a simpler way. I don't think he's doing it to exercise his skills as a filmmaker. I think he's trying to create an experience that you can't get from writing in the book or talking to somebody else that only cinema can do. I don't know.
He's like grappling with something more existential than, that you can put down on a pen and paper, or even through the medium of film. He's really grappling with something that's kind of more out there than that.
What did you think of this? How was your first go?
My first, maybe only. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But do you know what? I did struggle to the extent of like you. It was this idea of like, why am I seeing this? What has this got to do with this? What's happening? I knew going in that it wasn't going to be a linear experience, and I was ready to settle into that, and that was fine. And it does help that the film is absolutely stunning. Like it looks incredible.
Oh yeah.
The different uses of color, and there's almost like different frame rates during some of the scenes, which is extraordinary. There's a particular moment in the snow as we're looking down on loads of people enjoying going out like sledding and stuff, which is particularly fascinating. It is sledding, isn't it? Or is it?
It's probably the most colorful moment of the film. Really, it's like, oh wow, it's just this burst of color all of a sudden.
Yeah, everything is so kind of just grandiose. Like Tarkovsky has an eye for these things. He's painting a picture on the screen. But yeah, what does it all mean? What does it all come to? I don't know. I was probably left. Yeah, does it matter? Exactly. I was left with more questions than answers. I'm not going to say I was frustrated by this or anything like that, but it was one of those films where I was like, okay, I like it. I understand that it's the memories and dreams of a dying man. Does it make sense to me? Not really. I can read into it a little bit more and get other people's ideas on what's going on. Was that necessarily what I got in the moment? No. But I'm not frustrated about that experience.
Yeah.
But I'm not also, willing at this very moment to jump back in and watch it again and be like, what was it all for? Because, it is a shorter film, so I can understand why it might be easier to do that than something a little bit longer like Stalker. But
yeah, it's like an hour shorter than Andrei Rublev, but feels more dense than that movie.
Exactly.
At the same time, yeah,
exactly. But I mean, I was, don't get me wrong, I was connected throughout. But I do remember I was watching on the projector. My partner came to bed, and she was just like, "Are you enjoying this?" I was like, "I think so." And she was like, "What's it about?" And I was like, I don't know. And I think we were like, I was about 10 minutes from the end. I was like, I don't know really. But it looks good, and it's doing some interesting things. So that's kind of where I'm at with the film.
I think that's just like completely that experience is just so true and realistic to what it's like watching this film for the first time. You feel like, okay, I'm on board with this. We're at the mother's house, we're seeing her. Yes, okay, she works at the printing press, and then suddenly you're getting like this Spanish guy, reflecting on the Spanish Civil War, and then we get archive footage, and okay, that's muddying the water here. Oh wait, we're with the wife now, who's played by the same actress as the mother. Yeah, and our dying narrator's son is played by the same actor as his young self, and it's like, yeah, so there's a lot to set through. So like you said, the use of visual landscapes and sparse spaces is something that is hugely a big part of Stalker. That's what's really cool about that movie. It's just the derelict look of that film, and how aggressive that landscape is, and obviously proved to be true when we find out the ultimate demise of people who kind of suffered from making that piece of art. Yeah. But also, I think it's hard. It sounds really simplistic to say, anybody can stick a camera in an open space and make it look beautiful. I think a lot of filmmakers from the USSR and from Russia in that period were capable of really utilizing that beautiful landscape, like Tarkovsky. But I think what he does so well in this film, it really struck me, was his use, the sound of language. So I think about the way he implements the jarring post-production inputting of sound. Like there's a lot of heavy dubbing, like hearing the like aggressively saturated use of boots walking on the snow, the sound of like water trickling and cascading off walls and ceilings.
Water. Yeah.
Like the fact that these sounds are usually intentionally like out of sync slightly as well with the environment. I think this movie's just designed to really fuck with you and put you and make you feel off-footing all the time. So there's this purposeful aloofness is the best way of saying, where I don't think Tarkovsky is the type of filmmaker that creates confusion for confusion's sake. There really is. It's trying to really emulate what a dream or what a memory is like. We get these scenes where we transition. We're in an apartment in one scene. And yes, that's amazing. It's sort of like a horror movie. It looks like
I was going to say that was one of my favorite scenes, because I love that lingering footage of the steam of the mug left on the table, and you're not quite sure if the person was there or not. And
we're thinking of two different scenes, but that scene is great too.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about that scene.
But they're both great examples. Yeah, the condensation on the glass. Yeah,
it made me want to see Tarkovsky do a horror film. I was like, this guy's great.
I was thinking of that first scene with the mother in the apartment with her hair kind of stretched out in the pool of water and slowly comes out. She looks like she's out of the ring, and
Oh
then
yeah.
the wallpaper is peeling off, and there's the stove in the background is on fire, and it looks like a scene from hell. It really
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
And then we get the camera pans from the one side of the room, and then we're back into the countryside again with like one of the most seamless transitions ever. So I think he's trying to kind of get at like, oh, even when you're trying to pinpoint a memory, it always gets muddled up and fuzzes in with another memory. So it's we can't really rely on our own information. I think it's saying that too. But yeah, it's one of those films I'm really actually enjoying just talking about it to you, because I think it's a lot of these films on this list. Again, we don't want us to be a comparative exercise, but talking about them is just as fun as watching them, and sometimes even more. I think that's where the difference between a movie and art kind of comes into play, where it's something that the audience can really come out of it. Everybody come at it from a different angle and have something different and interesting that they saw in the film. It's one of those. I can't say I'll watch it for a third time.
You've watched it enough already.
Yeah, I think I've had my fill. But I really, it really provoked me into assessing how I enjoy media. That why have we been trained to see it as a medium only for, I need to follow the plot, and my success in and then absorbing this material is whether I understood it. And I think Tarkovsky's saying, no, well, that's not the point. I think it's just it's a film that you feel. And I read something about this afterwards, where he kind of wanted the structure of the film to kind of replicate music. So the whole kind of the film uses a lot of classical music like Bach, and maybe it doesn't always coalesce with what's going on screen, but that's kind of like the stream of consciousness too. That's kind of how we remember things. We kind of see things as moments. Whenever I go through, I have a moment where I'm like driving and I think about a memory. It generally cascades into another memory that doesn't necessarily relate, but it feels like they relate. You know what I mean? There's not narrative thread there, but they have a feeling that they are both connected. I think it's a stunning piece of work, if I'm honest.
Yeah, wow. Well, it seems to have taken you more than it's taken me, but I like that, because it wouldn't be on the list.
It didn't take me the first time.
Fair enough.
Honestly, I was exactly the same as you.
Yeah, it's on the list for a reason. Lots of people clearly love this film, and it's clearly taken people. So just because I'm not getting it this time around, like we saw with 8.5 last week. First time around, didn't enjoy it. Second time, I did. I'm not as willing as you to jump back into it so soon, but I might jump back into it again. I think you've given me good reason to think that I might get something from it next time I see it. I think this is our last Tarkovsky film on the list, but clearly it's not the final film Tarkovsky ever made. No. We've got a few to watch, which I'm sure at some point on the podcast we'll get into. Are you looking forward to that, Kris? Do you think, I think you've been a lot more enamored by his films than I have, even though we probably rank our lists in different orders right now. Is this your favorite?
I would go as far, I love Stalker, and I love the aesthetic, and I love what that film has to say about sort of masculinity and living in Soviet Russia, and how, men's emotions are suppressed. But I think this is just so dense and so personal. It feels like an end of career movie, even though this is was this like his third or fourth movie? Like, he made movies after this. It feels like it should have been his last movie, and he had another 10 years or 15 years of filmmaking after this, which is really fascinating, actually. Guy's made 7 movies, Alex. 7 movies, and 3 of them are on the top 100 list. That is some mark to leave, considering that he only lived to his mid-50s. So yeah, I think this is my favorite of the 3. I think I for what it did for opening my eyes, and maybe going forward, if there's more films on this list that is like this, and further, going to see more of his films, I will be more prepared and try to look at those sort of films as more experiences, as opposed to like, he meant this. I this isn't an Aronofsky film that's like oh, you didn't get it. And, we shouldn't simplify film experience to just, did you get it or not? So yeah, I like it for that reason.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like he has almost created these kind of films that you have to watch differently, and you can't.
It's
can't
challenging.
not but commend him for that, to be like, hey, I know what you think a film is, but like sit down and watch this.
Yeah.
But you have to watch it in a different way to how you've watched other films before.
Like you and myself, we're two guys who've grown up in the West, who have not had any smidgen of life experience that Tarkovsky had, living in a country completely different to our own. So it's really hard to kind of adopt a mindset that you've been trained to be opposed to all your life, in terms of absorbing art as being something to be consumed and entertained by. So this is it's a window into a different way of thinking, which is watching more movies like this can only help in how you can construct what you're deconstruct what you're watching. And I'm grateful for that. Maybe I'm not necessarily enamored and entertained on the first viewing, but I can recognize that this is something that's deeply felt and can only enrich people's lives by watching. It's really cool that you can watch this on YouTube. Anybody who's listening to this, like I think all of Tarkovsky's movies you can watch on YouTube.
I think the guys,
film.
Yeah, they were the guys who did the restoration, so I'm pretty sure you can ethically watch them on YouTube without feeling bad about it.
I think he made all of his films public domain from the get-go, because he didn't think that these sort of films should be monetized to be accessed. So there's a lot of, you can ethically watch this on YouTube on your phone, maybe not on your phone, but yeah, you can watch this anywhere really. So it shouldn't be hard. If anybody's interested and wants to do deep dive, I wouldn't recommend it as his first film for you to watch, though. Would you? Like, it feels. Like,
no,
I'm glad I had about 2 films before.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I would, the way we've watched it kind of works for me. But yeah, I definitely, whatever I would do, I don't think I'd ever put Mirror first. Because it's his shortest, but it is his probably like least accessible.
It's something.
And that's more than you can say for most.
It's more than you can say for Jim Henson.
not Jim Henson as a person. Not as a person.
No, Jim Henson, flipping heck. Honestly, I have to thank Jim Henson for tying my shoes. Without Elmo, I would still be like wearing Velcro.
Exactly. Thank you, Elmo.
Thank you, Elmo.
Who thought we were going to end our BFI section saying thank you, Elmo? But there you go. Andrei Tarkovsky's Mirror.
What is next on the list, Alex? Are we going number 30? Are we jumping past that? Are we going into the 20s now? Are we seeing number 30?
I think we are. I think we're jumping into the 20s now. So the next film on the list would have been Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which, as we all know,
which is one of Alex's favorite films of all time.
I absolutely adore that movie. And I think it is rightfully placed on this list, because I know when the list came out in 2022, some people thought that it hadn't really had enough time to be considered so high on the list. And I say, nay, this is one of the greatest films of all time. And if
nay,
not,
sir, nay.
If not, it shouldn't be 30. It should be in the top 10.
Wow.
But I do love that film. But yeah,
it is a great film.
The next two films on the list would have been Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Taxi Driver, both of which we have seen. So we are jumping to 28, which we are going to be watching, I believe, our first Czechoslovakian film on the list, Daisies.
Yeah, a film with a really big, legacy behind it. So again,
I think I'm more of aware of the poster than I am of the film itself.
Great poster. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to jumping into it. The only problem is, guys, is that we aren't going to be jumping into it next week. We do have a little break, which I think we knew we were going to have at least 1 week, but unfortunately, having a look at our schedules, we're going to be having a 2-week break. We are really sorry about that, but we will jump back into it. We will jump back into it as soon as we're back. Holidays, Taylor Swift concerts.
Guess which one's which.
We got it all going down. So, come back in a couple of weeks and I'll let you know how the Taylor Swift concert was and I'll rate it out of 5.
Yeah, I think we'll probably, we'll see films between that. So maybe it might be a good idea. We post a couple of short reviews on our Instagram stories. I might.
You want to hold yourself to that, Kris? You want to hold yourself?
I'm not promising it. I'm saying it might happen. So keep a lookout. Keep a lookout.
No worries. But yeah, when we come back, it'll be I believe it'll be our 99th episode. So I'll continue to be asking questions at the bottom of Spotify, and I will get some kind of Q&A stuff up on the Instagram as well. So keep an eye out for that, because we're getting closer and closer to our 100th episode, and we would like you to ask us questions that we can answer on that episode.
Yes.
But yeah, in terms of films that we'll be reviewing when we come back, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff coming out, which is good. So there'll be Inside Out 2, if both of us get around to seeing it. Kinds of Sadness will have come out, I believe. So hopefully maybe we've both seen that. All kinds of stuff, which hopefully we'll be bringing to you in the next episode. But like I said, a 2-week break. Sorry about that, guys.
That has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or review. We really do appreciate it. If you'd like to keep up to date with us, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Film Angle.
We also have a Film Angle playlist. If you want to listen to what we listen to, you can find that in the show notes. And who knows, maybe I'll add some Taylor Swift songs for the Taylor Swift concert. Be sure to catch us in 2 weeks for more cinematic discussions. Goodbye.
See ya.
If I'm a Muppet, then I'm a very manly Muppet.
A very manly Muppet.